Greens one and all, how's everyone doing? I hope well. It is Sunday, I think it's the 4th. What day is it? Yep, it's the 4th. So yesterday I basically I actually spent all day, yes, I spent mostly all day yesterday working on the truck. So it hasn't been running. I went over to O'Reilly first thing, right after I got done answering all your comments and stuff for part 2 of my return to forest camp. I went over there, I talked to them at O'Reilly, and I told them what was going on, and a lady came over and she said, "Oh, it's your ground." And the other two were like, "Well," and she's like, "Well, it's ground because," she said, "you have a 1994 truck. It's like, you don't have a main fuse. You probably have a bad ground, so go home and check your ground." So I went home, removed, I actually had to drop the starter, took off the ground that was on the starter. Come to find out, it was hooked up wrong. I'll go into that in a minute. So I dropped the starter, took the cable off, put it back up, put the bolts back in, and moved the ground to the lower part of the starter, which connects right to the base of the transmission. So it's right on metal. And then, same problem. A gentleman on nextdoor.com offered to come and take a look at it, so I texted him and I said, "Hey, if you're still available, I wouldn't mind, I would appreciate the help." So he offered to come look at it. And he said, "Sure, give me an hour." I said, "Great, I'll go grab lunch, I'll come back, I'll be ready for you." Did that. Come back. He texts me that I'm on my way, blah, blah, blah. It comes over. Nice guy. He puts his voltage meter on the battery. Battery's completely dead. He says, "You need a new battery." I said, he said, "Your battery's completely toast." So I'm like, "All right, well, I'll run it over to Costco. I'll just get a new one." So it took me about an hour because the Costco parking lot's a nightmare. Traffic, everything else, even though it's a Saturday. I come home. He comes back over because he only lives like 7 minutes away from me. Really convenient. We hooked the battery up. Oh, I put the battery up while he was on his way. I got the positive on, and there were sparks coming off the negative. So I stopped and waited for him. He showed up. He looks at it and goes, "Oh, you have a short somewhere." He gets under the truck and he looks, and my neighbor had. So the starter, I don't know if this is interesting for you guys, but the starter basically has 2 prongs on it. He hooked 2 positives on the one and a negative on the other, so it was wired wrong. And I didn't know that because I didn't know what to look for, because I don't really know. I don't know what I'm doing with a vehicle, and it's one of those. My biggest weakness is cars. I can do some things, but if I'd known that, I could have had it going last week, maybe. So he took off the ground, dropped the starter again, took 2 wires, separated and put them on, one on each prong. Like basically one spun it and the other one pushed the piston in to start the vehicle. So I just, my lack of knowledge and lack of experience with cars I didn't identify it right away. He noticed it like immediately. It's like, "Oh, here's what's wrong." Rewired it, reset the ground. I got up, I opened the truck door. I had dome lights for the first time. I'm like, "Oh, that's a good sign." Get in, a couple false starts because it had been sitting for a while. Started, and I let it run for a good couple minutes, maybe like 3 or 4. Just kind of move all the oil back up and around, and it's like, "Oh, that's a great sound, great sign, great sound." This is taking longer than I thought, but anyway, I backed it out of the spot where it had been sitting forever. And I was going to run it down to the gas station, car wash, power spray all the pollen and all the crap off of it, get it all nice and cleaned up. I go to leave, I let out the clutch, and it just stopped, and there's nothing. I had no dome lights, it wouldn't start, it wouldn't even crank, just turn the whole key. So it must be a ground issue again, I think. I text the guy, he's like, "Well, I got somebody over at the house, I can't leave." And I said, "Okay, well," I'm like, "You know what, it's like already 4:30. I'm like, "You know what, let's just do it another time." I'm actually pretty mad at that point because I had to move the truck without power back into its parking space. So I had to turn the wheel, and I had to, like, it's hard to push the truck on an incline up into the parking space myself. So I ended up having to use my Jeep to push the truck. into the spot, but I had to let it like roll backwards and stop so I could, you know, get it straight so it's not sticking over the lines. And I just said, you know what, screw it, let's just do it another day. So, well, I'm already at 5 minutes. I didn't mean to take it so long, but you know, some of you, I mentioned in the community post, so I just got to get under there again and see, maybe it's the ground I got to check, and then I'll just kind of go from there. But I'm getting pretty frustrated. I almost feel like just having the whole thing towed away to a junkyard, but then I need it to get firewood. So 5-minute rambling, sorry, it might be boring, but some of you guys are asking, so it's like, you know, trying to explain it the best I can as quickly as I can. But I gotta get my saw out, and I guess start getting some firewood going, so I get a blaze. I'm gonna do some I'm gonna do bannock. Well, I'll explain it, what's going on with that. But yeah, let's get moving. Alrighty. Thought I would, I had a couple requests to show. I'm trying to start the truck. Put some air in here. I have no dome lights again. Alright, so battery terminals are not only they're clean, but they're also tight. Relays are all checked, and I don't see anything out of place with the relays. Come on, you stubborn butthead. I took a picture of it prior to pulling them. I don't see any dark spots on any of them. Because it's a 94, I don't have a lot of you know, I don't have a lot of power options. There's no power windows, there's no power goodies. It's just pretty stock. So let's go turn the key. I'll leave this running, which I'll have to edit. So yeah. Alright, so I'm inside now. No dome light still. Turning the key does nothing. Ignition's only a couple years old. Battery is brand new. And I'm getting nothing. Except I'm rolling backwards. So, there you go. I think it might be the ground. Alright, so there you go. I just got to get under here again. Make sure I have a solid ground. I basically put it down, I put the ground on the base of the starter, which is pretty much touching the bell housing on the tranny, so it should be a solid ground. And it's metal on metal, so it should be strong enough. So, might be the ground. I gotta get under there and check it.